bundles, stage bundles, teas, and so much more. So definitely do check that out if you're interested. Everything is literally there for your convenience. Yeah. Okay, so.
What's up, guys? Doug Polk here, and today we're going to be talking about my thoughts on Daniel Negreanu's game from this challenge. Now, we're going to be going through all the different spots you can play in poker. I'm going to be giving him a rough grade and how well I think he played, as well as talk about some of the things that I found in terms of either leaks that he had, or rather stylistically the way that he played, and just some general overall thoughts. We're also going to run through a few hands to highlight some of the main principles that I think are at play, to show you guys exactly what I'm talking about in some different situations that did not reach showdown. But before we jump into all of this, I do want to say quickly that if you're interested in a free training video of me, he wasn't consistently aggressive enough in a lot of different situations that I think he really needed to be in order to win. And if you don't bluff enough, there's a second order effect that happens, right? Let's say that Daniel's not going for it in enough spots. Well, now when he does check, he's weaker. So even if he wants to call me light, he's still going to get bluffed because he has too many weak hands.
Enemy soldier
so the
incoming.
bluffs in my range will over-realize because
Use this
too
time
many
for some
weak
target
hands will reach
practice.
certain points.
Real
And that
thing's
kind of
coming
snowballs and makes a bunch of problems for Daniel that are going to be really hard for him to overcome. I think the peak point of understanding this concept of the way that he was playing was the stretch we had in the middle where he didn't get stacked for a couple thousand hands. That should be basically never happen. I think you should be, never a strong word, but to not get stacked for that stretch, that can only really happen if you're putting it in with very strong hands. And that just kind of shows sort of the overall place I think Daniel's game was at that time. And I do wonder if he had played closer to this version we saw at the end, would this challenge have been a lot closer? I think it probably would have been. Obviously, there are new problems when you play more aggressive and loose style. Obviously, you're more prone to make mistakes that are on the loose side. Lord knows I made plenty of those this challenge.
Enemies are
But I
dropping
do
into
think
the
that
area.
it would
Watch
have
the
been more
skies.
competitive if he had not been so limited by some of the framework of trying to make sure he picked the right bluffs. And I think that really might be what it boils down to. He didn't want to have dumb bluffs. He wanted to make sure he picked good bluffs, which sounds great, but the problem is heads up is so complicated.
Prep time's over. Now you deploy to the
only
war
looking
zone.
for really, for sure, perfect safe bluffs. You're just not going to bluff enough. And that's why in my game, I always try to bluff enough or call enough. Even if sometimes the hand I was bluffing with, not a huge fan of this, but sometimes you just need to make sure that you're throwing it in there just to keep your balances, your frequencies balanced. Alright, so we're going to give Daniel's game overall a B+. We'll say that his calling game is
Resurgence.
ability to
Survive the timer to secure redeployment.
call appropriately,
Earn
somewhere in
points
the B
to
plus
speed
A
up the
minus
countdown.
territory, and the bluffing portion of his game is more around the B minus, maybe C plus, and then towards the end, maybe a little bit higher than that. But now let's talk about some specific parts of his game. Let's kind of hone in on different parts of the game tree so we can understand it a little bit better. I want to start off talking about pre-flop. Now, pre-flop obviously is a very important aspect of the limit, and it kind of boils down
Enemies
to
dropping into the AO.
sizes that you choose to go, the frequency and ranges that you decide to put into those ranges. Overall, Daniel did an extremely good job here, and I'm sure a lot of this was his team prepping it. For most of the
Friendly
challenge,
Guardian
he showed
is
down
active.
very reasonable ranges. There's some stuff that differs from the ranges that I have. I don't think it's fair for me to put out what the impression they gave me was, but the point is that he did pick some stuff that was a little questionable. He seemed to be 35 pocket there in the frequency that I don't think was probably good. In fact, on 100 big blinds, you shouldn't really be 3-betting hands like threes that often, if at all. 35 really much for me, which I don't think is particularly great. Also, he was 4-betting hands between you know, his opening, he did a little bit of 2.4. That's a good oversize. 2.5, very similar value. Those both, of course, within the 5. So that was good. His 3 winning size, it made sense. He did a smaller versus me in some spots, bigger in some others. I think he played well with that one. His 4 winning size, he did a larger size as well. Now, more or less, all of the strategy from the size perspective, I think, was good, and most of the hand showdown made sense, but I do think that there was maybe some 3-5ing that was too light, and
Kill
there were
confirmed.
definitely some there
We located the rest of them.
I don't know if maybe some of that was down the stretch. He needed to kind of get back even, you know, make some stuff happen, make some hands, but there was hands that should simply just not be 3-bets, so unless he was trying to exploit me in some fashion, or he was just trying to make something happen, then, you know, and I'm just going to assume that he was just trying to make something happen with the amount of hands left. But overall, his reload game was quite good. It was actually, you know, one of his stronger attributes was playing pretty well. Okay, so let's talk about the different types of spots. So in poker, there were really 6 types of spots: single raise pots, and then in position out of position; 3-bet pots, in position out of position; 4-bet pots, in position out of position. And obviously, those all function very differently.
Mark remaining operators from that squad.
Of course, the player is going to have the advantage in all of them because you get to go last. But you know, the kinds of
friendly buy station is ready.
Be thinking about, they change pretty drastically from one to the next. So sometimes players can be significantly stronger in one of those areas compared to some of the other ones. Let's start off with talking about single raise pots. Single raise pots are the bread and butter of heads and no limit. They're going to be by far and away the most common spot. It's when one player opens, one player calls. Typically, it heads up. One player will open 80-85%, and the other player is going to call, depending on the open size, between 65 and 80%. So you can tell those are big numbers. Definitely going to be a lot of hands that you're going to be playing. Actually, sorry, they're going to defend somewhere around 60%. They'll probably call somewhere around 60%, 55%, whatever it is. The point remains the same. There's going to be a lot of hands.
Enemies are dropping into the area.
So it's really important to have good hands. Now, the thing about single raise pots is that they are the smallest pot, right? So while they happen the most, they are the smallest. So the overall value of this,
you got a loadout drop inbound.
Game, it will still be very important, but because it's for less money, it probably works out to be roughly even compared to how good you want to be in all the different types of pots. Anyway, single raise pots. I think he did a relatively good job of playing. This game is fairly strong. He chose a lot of good font sizes. But I think by the end he had some really astute sizes on the boards. They ended up actually in a lot of ways. But I thought that was reasonable, and I like the strategy that he was choosing in terms of what sizes he was looking to bet on some of these different boards. I do think that his bet triple offerings seemed to be pretty good overall. There were a few weird spots in that line. There were some hands where he would bet twice that I did not think made sense. There was
enemies dropping into the AO.
9 or something like that. We saw a few hands like that. I saw some ace high barrels in some similar spots where he would bet ace high twice.
Good kill. Marking the rest of that squad on your attack map. Get hunting. We are returning you to the front. Earn this. They hit us hard that time. Let's regroup and get back up there, yep?
The point is, and I'm not totally sure if Daniel was wrong. It's possible he was. I just mainly got to see the value of his ring all down, but he really didn't show a lot of ups down to me in that line. I did find some, so it's possible that he was wrong, and his frequencies were good. So I'm going to go ahead and overall tripling aspect of the game. So relatively friendly. I think it was probably, given how they were probably fairly balanced. And I think he did a good job here. I think overall that was one of the stronger portions of his game. The most fun was kind of picking up those spots. If you check back the flop, I think overall he played well versus turn probe. So turn probe means flop goes check check, and then I bet the turn. I think overall, based on the numbers that I have from my team, he played relatively strong against turn probe and river probe. So I think he played pretty well in those lines. I will say if it went check check flop check check turn and I bet the river.
Enemy soldier incoming.
A little bit too much there.
We're headed to the war zone. Get geared up and stand by.
That was the spot he got there.
Just saved your ass. Браги, брат!
Prep time's over. Now you deploy to the war zone.
The reason it has to raise is that if he doesn't better raise those hands, then essentially he can't really win, right? And he'd be worried about getting a raise. There was a hand where I think I had either bet small or I checked with a flush on there, flush on it, and he just checked back with trips or very small bet. And it's just a spot where, yeah, he was raised, bet, and he raised him.
Resurgence. You stay alive till time expires. You've secured redeployment. The more points you earn, the faster that clock's gonna tick.
You're not going to get to the so that's why
Enemies are dropping into the area. Watch the skies. software that we're using for the challenge. So we have a few different things on the table. We have a randomizer, we have an effective stack number. The orange number is just a clock, it's just basically a timer, it just counts out how many seconds it's been since your action. And then we also have a action tracking thing that says what the action has been so far. So we agreed to use these things, perfectly fine with the challenge. Enemy soldier incoming.
So, Jack 9 here, we open, he opens, we call it, we're going to see sort of the exact spot that I'm talking about, but I want to discuss a little bit.
Target down. Marking the rest of them. You're back on station. Go get after it.
Haha. How I got you.
Time for vengeance. You're redeploying. Kill confirmed. We located the rest of them. The enemy took that one, but we'll get them back.
And then 9-7 is pretty unlikely for both players. So in this situation, the not good hands, and he has way too aggressively bluffed this spot challenge. There was a hand early on where it was a little bit different, but it was the same principle where they find this cap, where he raised the hand such as block 5, which is a really bad bluff because block hands want me to have 5, and we have 5, 5 2s. Whatever it is that want me to have that 5. The 5 is not that often in range, but it is mainly in bluff range. So pocket 5s would just be a terrible bluff. You know, it's just not a good bluff to run in solvers would like it. But early on the challenge he did that because it's a good spot. And I think that this is one of the situations that Nirvana spent a little bit too much time thinking about whether he realized it or not, where he tried to bluff spots instead of trying to bluff correct frequencies. And let me give you some pod examples. We'll talk a little bit about that in a bit. But do you guys remember the hand where he threw that and barreled off on, I think the board was king, deuce, deuce, ace, for where the flush got there in the river? So in that spot, flop top pairs became weak. I can't have ace king. I can't have a deuce. I'm not going to have that many flush draws on that one, right? So it looks like a good spot when you have good hands. But what about the hand where I had king jack on the flop, so and it was queen 4 deuce, king 10, well, no, king jack. Again, good spot. Right? For me at the flop, it's a lot weaker now unless I hit 2 pair, which is pretty unlikely. So it's a good spot. He can have win for ace jacks than me. He can have jack nine I can't. He can have sets I can't. It's a good spot. And this is something I saw pretty consistently. He seemed, in my opinion, to lean towards picking spots over picking optimal frequencies within his range, given his value range, right?
Enemy soldier incoming. Gear up fast. We're about to get evil.
Grab a
All stations, we are green to go. Stand by for deployment.